Hi, I'm Jennifer Henderson, Keeper and Chief Executive at Registers of Scotland. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we do, and in particular, why we're working towards completing the land register and how we're bringing in new digital ways of working when you interact with us for registration services. Thought I should start by talking a little bit about ROS's purpose and vision. So we're here to support the people of Scotland and we're here to provide benefit to the Scottish economy. And we do that by being a digital registration business trusted for our integrity. You will most likely interact with us when you become practicing solicitors in relation to registration. But what's really important is that you know that we're acting in an impartial manner and that you will always get a service that's delivered with integrity. And we underpin how we deliver with our values. We're very customer focused. We make sure that we're always very professional. We're forward thinking, and you'll hear a little bit about that in relation to our digital services. And I've mentioned that it's really important that we're impartial. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do in Registers of Scotland. We've got 4 strategic objectives, and I'm going to talk in a bit more detail about 2 of them, but the other 2 are equally important. So we're looking to complete Scotland's land register by 2024. I'm going to go into a bit more detail about why, how we're doing that, which I think you'll find interesting. We want to make sure that the data we're collecting in the land register is used in an innovative manner. You will use it to support your conveyancing practice, but we have a lot of other customers out there who are making really creative uses of that comprehensive data set to solve other problems. We want to provide digital improvements for our customers. And again, you're going to hear a little bit about that. If you go back in time, the conveyancing process and the registration process has historically been completely paper-based. I think over the next few years, we will see a transformation for that to be delivered completely digitally. And then internally within ROS, we're making sure that we have the right people with the right skills to deliver those new ways of working and continue to support our customers. So we are investing in our people. So let me dive straight into completing the land register and what are the benefits of a complete land register. So I'm sure you're already aware that Scotland has the oldest national land register. It goes all the way back to 1617, the General Register of Sasines. And this has been a paper-based, narrative-based description of land rights and ownership. And has worked brilliantly, has served Scotland very well for a very long time. But then in 1979, the legislation changed and the land register was introduced. And the fundamental thing that the land register offers is a map-based view of land ownership and all the rights associated with that. And we've been working here in Registers of Scotland with the support of the wider profession to complete the land register over the last 40 plus years. And we've set ourselves the target, and the government has set us the target to finish that job by 2024. Why is it going to make a difference apart from being a very much more easy way to consume information about who owns property in Scotland? It's going to make property transactions much easier, faster and cheaper. Moving a title ownership from one land registered title to another land registered title is a very simple job for us. Once we've completed the land register, we're going to have that comprehensive map-based ability to search who owns anywhere in Scotland, much, much easier than delving through the old Sasine records. That's going to allow us to provide insight to citizens, policymakers and investors about where they might want to be putting their money, the kind of decisions they might want to be making about land use in Scotland. And we really see a complete land register, and I think the government see a complete land register as a really critical national asset for Scotland. Quick word about how normally titles would come onto the land register. And again, I'm sure you'll be familiar with this. So the most common process is through first registration, a title held in the General Register of Sasine that's being transacted on. When it is then registered into the new ownership, it will have gone through a first registration process and it will be mapped and on the land register. If a title isn't due to move anytime soon, then there are 2 other options that we're using. I'll go to the one at the bottom first. Voluntary registration, so typically used for large estates that wouldn't be being sold anytime soon. the person who owns that can come forward and voluntarily move their property onto the land register. And we work very closely with the organisations and individuals who do that. And then the final thing we're using is a little bit of something called keeper-induced registration, a power I have under the 2012 Act, and that allows me to move titles onto the land register without the involvement of the owner. The best place we are using this is in some of the housing estates where most of the estate is done, and we are able to just move the remaining properties across because we have all the necessary information. So you'll have instantly spotted, I suppose, that there is a challenge with this, which is to get quite a number of the areas of land in Scotland. We are reliant on the individual or organisation that owns that land wanting to voluntarily put their land on. And for that reason, we are also bringing an extra thing into the mix to allow us to deliver the benefits of a complete land register. And it's something we're called unlocking Sasines. Not only are we going to have to wait till 2024 to realise the full benefits of a land register if we rely on the conventional methods, but actually we think that we are going to have some areas of land that may not have transacted in that time, and therefore that is potentially missing information. So what we've been doing is thinking about, well, without delivering the benefits of a fully registered land register title, how could we unlock more of the information that's held in the Sasine register? So we've set up a project called Unlocking Sasines. What that's really going to allow us to do is answer the question of who owns Scotland. So it isn't a substitute for a land registered title, but it's going to get us a long way to getting some of that macro level information. And I'll just tell you a little bit more about that. So it's going to give us insights using existing data. It's going to allow us to link the Sasine search sheets onto a map. That will be hugely significant. Help landowners have better visibility about what they own. And actually, that may well be a good stepping stone towards people moving to registration when they can sort of start to visualise what they own on a map. It may get them over the hump of coming forward and wanting to go through the full registration process. And as we say, it really is going to help us answer that who owns Scotland question and give a much richer data set that allows us to deliver what we're here for, to benefit the economy, to enable people to make good decisions about investing in property or land in Scotland, to enable policymakers to make good decisions about things they might want to do in relation to land use. So how's it going to work? So the joy of this as an approach is that we already hold all the Sasine information. So we already know who owns Scotland. The difficulty is how we would represent that on a map without people going through a first registration or voluntary registration process. But very often the people who own the property will hold spatial data, the mapping data that reflects their estate, reflects where they believe their boundaries are. If we can get that data, we can tie it together with our Sasine information and we can provide an indication of ownership. Worth emphasising, absolutely not a substitute for a fully land registered title. It's not going to have an unlocked Sasine record, isn't going to have all that information on the land register, and it's going to be something where people would still need to be going back into the Sasine information to really understand what sits behind the title. But at a very high level, it will allow us to look at the map and get better information across the whole of Scotland. So I'm going to park the land register completion piece, and the thing I now want to move on to is to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing to work digitally. And I suppose one of the ways of thinking about this is, as we complete the land register, we will have a much better set of information that we can use to really start to interact digitally with it. It's pretty hard to interact digitally with very old, hundreds of years old paper records. And what we're seeking to do in terms of our digital involvement is we've got a roadmap that is bringing in different digital tools for how we want to deliver, gives us new opportunities. The big thing that we've done in the last year and a half is introduce digital submissions. So if you go back to prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the way people would submit their registration to us is in a paper form. It would come in the post every day. That's gone now. Our registrations for all our registers, with the exception of one, although even that we're hoping to bring across to digital ways of working, are now submitted to us digitally. Much more speedy for the customer, also much more speedy for us, allows us to start processing that information without having to sort a whole lot of paper, allows us to make good use of the cloud in terms of where and how we store that information, and makes us a much more resilient business. One of the things that's very challenging at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic was having to shut just for a very short amount of time, 24 hours, while we worked out how to resolve some of the problems, but to shut the registers to paper applications because it wasn't going to be something we could continue to do safely. Working digitally overcomes all of that. We don't need to be in our buildings in order to continue to deliver our services. So I'm just going to talk about our digital priorities in 4 buckets. Services, I've described the digital submission system, but that is just the start. I've got a slide in a moment where I'm going to talk you through what we are looking to bring in terms of digital ways of working. But I think I want you to visualize the end. We are looking to get to the point where there is no paper involved in the registration process. The entire signing, sending, processing is all done electronically, speedier, more accurate, and just a much, much better service. So that's where we're seeking to get to with digital registration services. That's really underpinned by the second thing on this slide, which is data. We can only do that if we have really good structured data. So customers, yourselves who will be creating registration applications, you are pulling down on structured data that we hold to fill in the necessary forms to create the deeds, and then you're getting it signed digitally by your customers as required, and you're sort of submitting it to us. It's going to allow us to automate more of what we do. It's going to avoid the possibility of human-induced error at any point in the process. It's going to speed the whole thing up. It's going to be more secure when we're relying on things like digital signatures. One thing I just want to flag while I mention data is, of course, we are already very proud of the services we offer in terms of how people access our data. I'm sure you'll become very familiar with our ScotList system, and we really think it is a world-leading way of people accessing land register data and being able to self-serve for that information rather than have to come in through our customer services. And the final thing to just call out in relation to digital services is the resilience piece. Underpinning a reliance on delivering things digitally for all of its advantages also means we have to ensure it's a really resilient service, that the security is there, that the cyber security is there, that people's credentials are checked when they're interacting with the system, so that people can have, it's back to that integrity piece, people can have absolute confidence that this is a service delivered with integrity. So this is a rather busy slide, and it's a rather busy slide because we've got a lot going on, but this is really how we lay out what we're seeking to achieve in terms of end-to-end digital registration. And just to help you get your eye in, so the things that are above the line, the sort of darker purple colour, are the areas where we've introduced digital tools or digital services. It allows higher levels of kind of the system validating what's been done. It allows higher levels of automation. It reduces the amount of manual effort. Where we are now is we have some of that, but the lighter purple colour are the things that Registers of Scotland colleagues need to do manually, and the yellow are the things that solicitors need to do manually. And our real goal over the next few years is to get an increasing number of things above the line where it's automatic, it's self-populating, and it requires a minimum amount of manual effort. And then you and we are adding the value in the things that can only be done by a human. So the thing we've got coming up next is something called Register Land and Property as a service. And that's really exciting because that is going to be where you as a solicitor will be using our structured data to create your deeds, to populate the information that traditionally you would have to type in for yourself in terms of what you want to put into your registration application. And then you'll be able to automatically submit it to us when the transaction's gone through. And because it is information that has been populated from our systems, there'll be much less checking that we need to do at our end about what's going on, what property's really involved, are all the right things in the right place on the paperwork for us to say that's a valid registration to take forward. And if you look forward on the chart in terms of time, that's where we're really, really looking to get to. I'm just going to take you on to the benefits then. So I think I've talked a little bit about this. So simplifies the customer application journey. You are not having to fill in different forms and remember to attach different bits of paper. Everything is done inside the system. You can't get it wrong, essentially. You're reusing rather than re-entering data. Hugely important for getting it right, hugely important for not introducing inaccuracies. It also allows you, when you've submitted an application, to see where it is in the system. When you used to send a piece of paper into us, you'd have no idea whether it had even got there, never mind whether it was being processed. This way, you'll be able to have much greater visibility of what's going on. Gives you increased certainty of the outcome. I think previously people have fed back to me that you would send a registration application into Registers of Scotland and you just wouldn't know whether you'd got it right or not until you either got the registered title out the end or you got the information back saying there was an error. This will give you much more confidence that you have done the process in the way we need it done because we've removed the opportunity for any errors or mistakes to be made. Speeding up the turnaround time, which is always good news. Customers want to know when they're going to get their registered title back. And overall, we think both for you and for us, it's going to make it easier, cheaper, and less complex. And that has got to be a good thing. And that's really where I wanted to leave it for today. It's the whistle stop tour of what we're up to in Registers of Scotland, and I've only really scratched the surface. But I think if anybody stopped me in the street and said, what are the two big things you're working on, it would be land register completion and delivering a digital registration service. There's various contact details there of how you could follow up with us, but I just want to add my personal email address, jennifer.henderson@ros.gov.uk. If there's anything you ever want to get in touch with me direct about, please just do that. And I very much hope you enjoy developing your skills as you go through your course. And I'll be looking forward to working with you in the future when you qualify and move into conveyancing. Thank you very much.